Hey everyone, I'm Maria.
And I'm Leo.
And today we're diving into test automation. It's a massive time saver in the world of software development, but it also comes with a few hidden traps.
Right. And as a student, I am all about finding ways to work smarter, not harder. So, yeah, let's get right into it.
Maria, this slide is basically my life right now. On my last class project, I swear, I spent literal days just clicking through the same forms, typing in the same test data again and again and again. It felt like such a huge waste of time. There's got to be a better way, right?
Maria, you just hit the nail on the head. That feeling is the exact reason test automation was invented. The whole idea is to use software to take care of all those repetitive, boring tasks so that we humans can focus on the more creative, tricky, problem-solving parts of building software. So let's break down what that actually looks like.
Okay, so at the very heart of test automation, you have what are called test tools. Now, the definition here is pretty straightforward, right? They're just pieces of software that help with testing. But that simple definition actually covers a massive, surprisingly wide range of tools and functions. This slide really gets to the why of it all. Why do we even bother with automation? And sure, a huge part of it is about being more efficient, but it's also about improving the quality and reliability of your software. A script never gets tired, it never gets distracted, it never makes a typo. Plus, some tests are just physically impossible for a person to do, like say simulating 1,000 users hitting your website all at the exact same second. Okay, that makes total sense. But test tools still sounds super broad. Are we talking about one specific program you buy, or is it a whole ecosystem of different software? I'm picturing a toolbox, but I have no idea what's actually inside.
It is absolutely a full toolbox. You've got these major categories of tools. Some help you manage the entire testing process from start to finish. Others are designed just to help you create test data. And then you have the tools that most people think of, the ones that actually run the tests. And those can be broken down into two main types. So this is a really crucial distinction to understand, the difference between static and dynamic tools. Static tools are kind of like a spell checker for your code. They analyze everything without actually running the program, looking for potential problems really early in the process. Dynamic tools, on the other hand, test the software while it's up and running, clicking buttons, filling out forms, and checking if the right thing happens. Pretty much exactly like a human tester would.
All right, this all sounds really powerful, but as a student, my brain immediately goes to the cost. These tools sound complicated, maybe even expensive. So what's the real payoff here? Is all that effort and investment really worth it in the end?
Oh, the benefits are definitely significant. Think about all that repetitive work you mentioned earlier, Leo. Automation completely gets rid of that, which means you can run way more tests way more often, which in turn boosts reliability. It also makes collecting and analyzing data a breeze, and, like we said, makes those big performance tests possible. But honestly, the most important thing is it frees you up to solve the really interesting, challenging problems that a machine just can't handle.
And this graph shows the whole cost-benefit thing perfectly. See that initial spike? The effort to create an automated test is high. It definitely costs more than just doing it by hand that first time. But look what happens every single time you run that test again. The savings just start to stack up, and they stack up fast. The real value, the real win, is in the repetition.
Wow, yeah, that graph is pretty convincing. A big initial effort for a huge long-term gain? That totally makes sense. But, I don't know, it almost sounds a little too good to be true. Is there a catch? What am I missing?
That is exactly the right question to be asking, Leo, because it is not always that simple. You can't just flip a switch and have perfect automation. It comes with its own unique set of challenges and risks that can totally derail the whole effort if you're not ready for them.
And the source material we're looking at really hammers this point home. Just going out and buying an expensive tool doesn't guarantee you're going to be successful. In fact, if you're not careful, it can create a whole new set of problems. Let's take a look at what some of those are.
And here we go. These are some of the biggest traps people fall into. They have these wildly unrealistic expectations, thinking the tool is going to solve every single problem. They underestimate the sheer amount of time and effort it takes to get it running, and this is a big one, to maintain the automated tests over time. And look, if your manual testing process is already a mess, a tool isn't going to fix it. You even have to think about things like the tool's manufacturer going out of business.
Wow. And looking at this number, we're not talking about a small investment here. For a big company, rolling out a new tool can easily run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if that project fails, that is a massive and very expensive mistake.
So I guess the big takeaway here is that automation is this incredibly powerful tool, but it's not a magic wand you can just wave. You have to be smart about it and have a really solid plan before you even start.
Exactly. This quote from our source material just sums it up perfectly. If your testing process is already chaotic and disorganized, adding a tool just gives you faster chaos. The very first step is always to have a solid, well-organized manual testing process in place.
So, to avoid all that chaos, you need a structured approach, a real game plan. This 5-step process is a fantastic guide. First, figure out exactly what problem you're trying to solve. Then, do your research and see what's out there. Try them out with demos, narrow down your list, and finally, and this is so important, run a small pilot project to prove that it actually works in your real environment before you commit to buying anything.
That makes so much more sense. It's not about just buying a tool, it's about having a detailed plan to solve a very specific problem.
You got it. So, for everyone watching, think about your own projects. What's that one repetitive task that just drives you crazy? That might just be the perfect place to start. Thanks for joining us.